find them. Yeah, you have a shared purpose, a shared language, and it's very easy. The communications are very simple when everybody knows what their job is. That's pretty good. But the guy on the right came up with a problem, and his name's Bill Joy, and he was one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems. And the guy on the right said, and this is true but very upsetting, he says, whoever you are, the smartest people in the world don't work for you. And this is true. I mean, by the way, if you think about this, this is true about a lot of things. If you want to find the perfect partner for you, the perfect spouse for you, this perfect matched biological entity, they probably live in China. But you don't know them, you're not going to meet them, you don't speak their language, you're not going to find them, so you settle for the person you do know. We love the one we're with. We love the one we're with, and we don't think about the statistical optimization of this quest for perfection. But Bill Joy said, well, increasingly, you don't have to settle for the one who graduated from the right college, or the one who happened to be available, who happened to live in Silicon Valley, or is an American, or speaks the right language, or whatever. He says, you know what? Increasingly, you can actually find the best person in the world. Now, that was 10 years ago, and it's taken some time to find that. But I just wanted to end on a kind of a very Tijuana note. This is the cover of Make magazine, which is actually to combine the two. This is Mark Frauenfelder, and the co-founder of Boing Boing was also one of the editors here. And this is sort of the Bible of the maker movement, which is what we're part of. And there on the cover is it's about drones. It's about what we do. That's one of our UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. And the guy right there is in the audience somewhere. His name is Jordi Munoz, and he's right over there. Hi, Jordi. And I'm now going to embarrass Jordi a little bit by telling a little bit about his story, because his story is my story. When I got started with this in UAVs, I went looking for. I wanted to learn more about it. Remember, I had mindstorms and remote control planes, but I was really not an expert. So I went online and set up a little blog about this. And eventually I found this guy who was doing amazing things. He was flying a helicopter with a Wii controller, and he was using this thing called the Arduino project, which I'd never heard about, but it looked pretty cool. And anyway, we got in touch, and we talked about doing some projects together, and he seemed like he was the smartest guy in the world. The Bill Joy problem, you'll never find the smartest guy in the world. It seemed like I had found the smartest guy in the world for this particular function. And so we thought maybe we should start a project together, and I thought I maybe should know a little bit more about this guy, this Jordi Munoz guy. Well, I'm going to try to get the story exactly right. Jordi turned out at that time to be a 19-year-old high school graduate from Tijuana. And he had not been to college, he had not had any professional training in this bit, but he was clearly the smartest person in the world. He'd gotten a Google PhD. He was intelligent and driven and curious, and he had access to the world's greatest information resource, the internet. And not only did he have access to this to learn how to do things, but he also had access to this to show what he could do. So by posting his videos on these forums, it was now possible to solve Joy's paradox. When I went looking for my partner for what would then later become 3D Robotics, our company, to be the CTO, when the editor-in-chief of Wired magazine goes looking for the best person in the world to be his co-founder on a new robotics company, I didn't go to MIT. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Silicon Valley. I didn't go to a headhunter. I didn't look for a resume. I didn't ask for a certain language or experience or credentials. What I went looking for was what the community had identified as the smartest person in the world, and for this particular function, and that turned out to be a 19-year-old Tijuana native who had self-trained himself in aerial robotics. And what was great about that is that it didn't matter. It's much better to have the smartest person in the world than to have the person who has the conventional credentials. So this is just about 4 years ago. Today, this is our factory in San Diego. I was just there yesterday. We now have, Jordi we have 8 employees. We have robotic manufacturing equipment. We are very much part of this sort of San Diego, Tijuana, economy. We're probably going to start operations in here to do some of the assembly. And what we have is a perfect model of the new industrial revolution at play. Our intellectual property, our design, is done by a global community of 12,000 people who contribute for free. The bits are done through the open source model. The atoms are done in a conventional factory, but a conventional factory run by a now 24-year-old who's partnered with a magazine editor. Neither, in the traditional model, neither one of us would be in this position. A magazine editor wouldn't be partnering in a robotics company, and a 24-year-old wouldn't be running a high-tech aerospace factory. But because the tools of production are now democratized, because we don't need permission, because our regulatory barriers are lower, we can do it. We are doing it. We're growing super fast. We are, in many ways, the future of the aerospace business being grown locally, here, along the sort of the San Diego-Tijuana border, along new industrial revolution properties. So this is why I believe so strongly that this is a revolution, because I'm living it every day. And it boils down to simply this. Atoms are the new bits. Everything we've seen in the digital world, everything we've seen on the web was just the beginning. Now it gets real. Now it gets into the physical world, and it's global, it is distributed, it is democratized, and just like Jordi and I could create an aerospace company along these principles, I think everybody here has some idea which could be turned into a product, and there's absolutely nothing stopping you. You're in the right place at the right time. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Agradecemos de nuevo cuenta al señor Chris Anderson su participación en Tijuana Innovadora. Vamos a iniciar de nuevo cuenta la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Nuevamente, le hacemos la misma recomendación. Tratemos de ser concisos y breves en nuestra pregunta. Por aquí ya hay una persona levantando la mano. Por favor.
Pregunto en español, en inglés.
En español está bien.
Español, ok. La pregunta, son 2 preguntas rápidas. La primera es, ¿ha visto por parte del gobierno, en este caso de los Estados Unidos, procedimientos nuevos para regular estos nuevos procesos de manufactura? Es decir, tratar de ponerle un alto, ¿no?, a todo esto, porque en el momento en el que vemos un avance y que la gente empieza a ganar dinero, el gobierno empieza a poner barreras, ¿no?, decir, bueno, hay que regular esto. Y la segunda es, sitios como Alibaba y sitios donde uno puede producir fuera localmente, no tiene el control. Entonces, con respecto de cuestión de calidad y el que procedan, por ejemplo, los reclamos sobre tus productos, ¿qué experiencia ha tenido con eso?
Yeah. Those are very good questions. Thank you. I don't need to hear myself being translated. The first is that it's not that the government would take new action to regulate it. It's that as we get bigger, it becomes obvious that we need to comply with the laws. So let me give you an example. Right now, if you sell electronics to consumers, you need to send them to the FCC to be certified as not interfering with radio. Only if you sell to consumers. If you sell to hobbyists, or if you sell as parts, as components, they don't need to be certified. But the last person who touches a product before it is sold to a consumer, whatever consumer means, is supposed to get FCC certification. So right now we sell components. At some point we may put those components in a box and sell it all shrink-wrapped, ready to go. At that point we're not selling to hobbyists anymore, we're selling to consumers, and we probably should get FCC certification. So that's kind of a maturity phase. It's not a new rule, it's just that as we get bigger, we're subject to it. Liability insurance. Many of the companies in the open source hardware world that we're in don't have liability insurance. But as you get bigger, there's a risk that somebody may use your device the wrong way, hold the phone wrong, whatever, and they could sue you. You have an obligation to do that. And then things like paying taxes and getting business licenses, all that kind of stuff sort of kicks in as you get older. So those aren't new, but they're kind of one of those barriers that you hit as you become more successful. The second question was about quality in China, et cetera. That's a great point. Initially, we started in China, and we started using outsourced manufacturing, and that was good because it was cheap. But at a certain point, it's not so much that it's bad quality; it's that it's uncertain quality. You don't always get what you want. It takes time. Sometimes there's delays. The Chinese have holidays, things like that. So we've now moved all production, with the exception of the printed circuit boards. We've moved all production back to the United States, and then soon next month we'll be launching in Tijuana. And the reason we did that is that because our production is based mostly on robotic equipment, we have these pick and place machines. There's not that much labor really in it, and it costs a little bit more to do it here in the San Diego, Tijuana area, but it's faster, we get more flexibility, we can test the stuff, we can, if there's a problem, we can fix it right on the spot. So what we lose in economics is small, and what we gain in quality and flexibility and speed is great. And so we've moved production back.